You're listening to Reignite, a podcast about seeking forgiveness. I'm MJ.
And I'm Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
And our guest this week is fighter, blacksmith, and sometimes actor, though he'd hate to admit it, Josh Coslar.
Hi.
Welcome, Josh.
Good to be here.
I also know Josh as the secondary best man at my wedding.
Secondary? Was he like second in rank?
Yeah.
Auxiliary.
Yeah.
Auxiliary best
Should
man.
Patrick fail to perform his duties, Josh was there to step in.
I mean, I will say, like, getting to know Josh, just being frequenting the Ren Fair more, but also I got to know him a lot during that weekend of the wedding. The day of the wedding, he was a rock star as far as keeping things together, keeping his shit together, keeping us all from not losing our minds, and so that was definitely appreciated.
That's why he was on the team. I would have had him for Team Bride if I could have.
I don't think trades were allowed.
I was going to say, we had enough ego on Team Bride with me there. Let's not get carried away.
Anyway, Josh, tell us about the work that you do.
I am a fight choreographer for stage and screen, and I focus on martial or historically accurate combat. So fake fighting that looks a little more like real fighting than we're used to.
All right. I know that Josh did a show over the summer at the New York Renaissance Fair called Four Swords. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was a comedy show where we took historically accurate combat and turned it into really elaborate dick jokes.
I really wish I could have gone to see it, but I was trapped in my own store the whole time. So, Josh, what is your history with Mass Effect? What does it mean to you?
I actually discovered it after, like, the big spikes, after 1 and 2 were already super popular, and it was just like, I like space westerns, I like fantasy stories with lasers instead of Excaliburs, and a friend said, you should try this, and I played the first 2 games in the same weekend without sleeping.
Jesus.
I mean, that sounds like a common experience, to be perfectly honest.
That's true. Well, most of our guests are either more along the lines of like I was, where they like played it from the beginning, or like Josh, where it's like, oh, I found it and binged it, and now I'm ravenous. Like, that seems to be the two ends.
Yeah, it was just a really wonderful story with really good gameplay, and it was varied enough that I could get a lot of different playthroughs out of it and have a different experience.
Since you binged 1 and 2 together over a weekend, was the wait for 3 almost unbearable? How close to the release of 3 did you binge 1 and 2?
A week.
Jeez, okay. Wow. All right.
I rolled right into it.
So, in your ideal playthrough, what choices did you make?
So I usually went Paragon. I've done Renegade. I've done a mix of the two. Think I've gotten every choice you can make, though not every combination of choices.
All right. So, ideally, does the Arachnite Queen live or die?
Lives.
What about Rex?
Also lives.
Who is your preferred Vermeer survivor?
Caden. Only because I like it when he sticks around for spoiler reasons.
All right. Who is your ideal love interest of Mass Effect 1?
I look at the love interest as one, as like the prequel for the rest of the story, so Liara, because I think it's neat.
All right. And what happens to the Council?
The Council lives.
All right, that's fair. Anderson or Udina?
Anderson. Udina is a jerk.
Matt, you're alone. Alone.
Wait, you pick Udina?
No, I didn't. I wanted nothing to do with politics, so I picked the middle option of not choosing, and then they chose
stood
Udina.
idly by.
If you don't vote, you get the worst option. I
know. I'm aware. I didn't learn from real life, though I should have. I think it's very funny that we continue our streak of the majority rules of Paragon. We've had one dedicated renegade on the show as a guest.
And she didn't even take the renegade, action.
I'm a space liberal. I'm sorry.
Hey, me too.
We're all space liberals here. It's fine. It's a safe space for us.
I did one full Renegade playthrough, but I couldn't be a dick to Joker, so there's a couple Paragon choices.
Yeah.
Because I can't be mean to Joker. I can't do it.
Neither can I.
Yeah.
There's
Same.
There's a spoiler moment in 3 where you can kind of guide his love life, and I can't shut it down. I can't, because I just want him to be happy.
He has to be protected.
I just want him to be happy.
Yes, at all costs. Even though he's kind of a chauvinist jerk a little bit in the second game, we're learning. I mean, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not a good person, but he's my shitbag.
He grows.
That's fair. He does grow. That's true. Especially after event redacted in this game that we haven't gotten to yet.
Yep.
Which is funny for me to not spoil that, considering in the last episode with Colin we spoiled a ton of shit without regard. So it's fine. We make up the rules as we go along. If you don't like it,
I mean, we try.
You're here.
We
so
try
what are
really
we?
hard. Do we want to get into the summary?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. Thane has asked Shepard for help locating his son before the boy makes a mistake of following in Thane's footsteps. Bailey gives Shepard word that Kolyat was spotted talking to Mouse, a former duct rat known for working with some sketchy characters, as well as selling VIs of famous people, like Shepard. Mouse reveals who hired Kolyat, and we learn a little more about Thane's past. Bailey agrees to help haul in the guy who ordered the hit, so Shepard and Thane could interrogate him and find out the target. Elias reveals that the target is Joram Talid, a Turian politician with a decidedly anti-human stance. Thane has Shepard follow him in order to intercept Kolyat. Shepard spots Kolyat and messes up his hit, allowing everyone to catch up to him. Shepard then must defuse the situation, despite Kolyat's anger at his father. A lot of things happen.
Well read. Yeah. So this mission is a continued stretch of missions that we get that are only story. There's not any combat. And it's funny. We've talked quite a bit about the different lengths of the different missions, and I felt like there was a lot to do in this game, which there is. But I think more of it is because we're isolating even the missions that are more story and faster, you know, the same way we isolate the heavier, like, combat-laden missions. And I think it's given a poignancy to discussing them in a way that I didn't really get, through previous playthroughs, because, especially once you've played this game for the 6th or 7th time, you're like, oh, I know what happens here. I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to go do that. I just want to get to this result to see this thing. It's kind of allowing me to reappreciate some of the narrative-heavy stuff that I might have not necessarily glazed over in the past, but definitely rushed through in moments to get to other parts of the game.
I think that speaks a lot to something Josh and I were discussing off air. Josh, you were saying that when you play, you often think of the overall story that you want to tell and what choices will get you there.
Absolutely. I have this reflex where I look at all of the games and all of the choices that lead into everything, and I'm like, if I make this choice now, I know what's going to happen down the stream, so I want to make the whole tapestry. And I think breaking it down mission to mission forces you to look at it again like you would look at it if it was happening to you.
Yeah, it forces you to live in the moment rather than live in all the moments at once.
Yeah, for sure.
So, question for Josh, why is this mission important?
I think this is one of the first times in the Mass Effect universe that I feel you really get a sense of consequence over a long time. Like Asari talk about long view and long scale, but you can literally see generational trauma happen in this mission, and you can also see like, oh, this kid was a sacrifice for the greater good. His dad went and did some stuff that changed the galaxy for the better, and he got the short end of the deal. And Shepard is making these choices that's going to hopefully improve the galaxy, and somebody's going to get the short end of that deal.
And we often see it. Every once in a while we get an email from people that we've impacted without realizing that we've impacted them. And sometimes they're good emails, like Neff's mother saying to us, thank you so much for avenging my daughter. But sometimes they're bad emails, like Toombs emailing us and saying, I can't believe you're working for Cerberus.
Yeah. This is a character, Thane, who's super combat focused, and so much of his personality and his identity is in his efficiency. And to have that be a character where a story-focused mission is the goal is really impressive, and I think shows a level of writing restraint and character development that's really beautiful.
Yeah, I think that also one thing that I love about Thane, other than how handsome he is that is that like, and we'll get to this when we talk about the story, because there's a moment that both of you will know immediately that's like such ninja cliche, and yet still every time it happens I go, that was so cool. Even though I see it coming from a mile away, storytelling wise, just the way the whole scene's set up. It's a cinematography conversation we'll get to later, but this mission for sure also continues in the long line of daddy issues, the game, which is like interesting, because the other end, like when we talked about Jacob's incredibly problematic mission, it's from the point of view of the son. And so now we're getting it from the other side. This is the point of view of the father, who knows he's failed, who knows he's made those mistakes, and wants to try and bridge that gap, which, after bouncing off of Jacob's mission so hard, mostly because of the problematic shit in it, it's interesting to see that dynamic of a father who knows he messed up, as opposed to Jacob's who didn't, who was clueless, and to experience the emotion that's attached to that.
Before we continue any further, I'd really like to take a moment and let our listeners know that we should include a content warning for discussion of toxic family relationships, difficult relationships with one's father. I know Josh and I have personal stories that we can dive into, that I have dove into in the past, and this can be a difficult conversation, so please be forewarned as we go forward.
Yep. Feel free to smash that skip button if you need to jump to other parts of the show. We try and keep the conversation flowing in a cohesive way that you can do that if you need to.
All right. So why don't we start with our check-ins?
Sure. So we get to have a really kind of lovely conversation with Samara. So we've completed her loyalty mission at this point, and she's continuing to open up to Shepard, and we get to just find out a little bit about her life and the things she's done over the many, many years she's been alive. It's even some of the mistakes she's made, and it's really fascinating. Like I said in the last mission, when we discussed how Samara talks, delivers her information, and engages with you, I just find something so incredibly captivating about it, and not even in a relationships or sensual way. It's more of just being enamored with her in a very kind of like in awe, just because of all of the things she's done, how accomplished she is, how she carries herself.
Yeah, she is a wonderful, beautiful character. She is loyal completely. She is with you no matter what. And she also had such a robust life. Speaking of, she fought Nihilus at one point.
Yeah, that's a really cool conversation that I had forgotten about. Again, surprising no one who listens to this show that I forgot something. But, that whole conversation is really great because we also learn a little bit more about Nihilus, and that he wasn't even what he seemed. And you have no way to confirm this, obviously, because it's just Samara's side of the story. But she gives you information that he put innocence at risk, and that's just very outside of what we knew of Nihilus from the first game.
Yeah, apparently he killed an unarmed civilian, which prompted Samara to hunt him down, and he got out of it by putting her in a situation where it was either save innocent lives or go after him, and she chose to save the innocents. And it's such a push back against the Nihilus we've kind of idolized in our grief for him, because we didn't really know him that long. We only knew him as someone who put us forward for the Spectres. He believed in us. And he died. And we never really got to show him what we could do. So I don't know. I feel like that grief painted him in such a light that he was always a good person in my brain. But now I'm wondering, was he really as good as we thought? Or was he like Saren?
Yeah, I mean, it seems to me like the Spectre program breeds this ability to do whatever you want, and it can be toxic and damaging. And I mean, even when we get to the third game, there's a lot of that, like Shepard's trying to save the world again, and like Shepard even struggles in that game, and it's a little bit in this game with this freedom, and it's always like, for example, we're going to talk to Garrus in a minute. Like what I talked about in our last episode are things that I'm still struggling with, and so to see Samara bring to light to a Spectre that we thought we knew some things that were problematic or uncharacteristic makes you think about what giving that kind of blanket freedom to someone to do what's necessary can do to a person.
I also really appreciate that one thing Samara brings up is that being a Justicar is not glamorous. It's tedious and boring. It's traveling and talking and so much talking. And then there's like brief points of fighting and hunting and like righting the wrongs, but it is so much busy work until that point.
Yeah, and she also even goes into her past a little bit, talking about like how she was young and stupid, how she was essentially a space pirate and had done some not great things that she learned from. Like it shows there's dynamics to her character that were already there, but that are even more fleshed out. Because it's very easy to meet Samara and think, oh, she's perfect. Like she's never done anything wrong. She knows exactly what justice is, but I think a lot of that comes from making mistakes and living this long life and not always doing the right thing.
Yeah, I appreciate that she decided to fight for the slaves that she found out that she was transporting and, you know, saved them and liberated them and gave them guns and armor and stuff. But I don't like that she lectured them on the importance of defending yourself.
Yeah, that was the one moment where I was like, all right, white dude, calm down. Like that's such
Samara.
a like person of privilege, like relax, pal. But it shows the flaws in her, that she didn't know any better then. She likely wouldn't have done that now. She seemed even a little bit embarrassed about her past and that, you know, she was not this perfect person.
Josh, do you have anything about Samara?
I really just enjoy her honesty in this. Like, Justicars are held accountable to a code, but not to any people, as far as we know. And so it's really cool that she's just honest with Shepard. That's such an interesting development. And I think really telling about what she's trying to accomplish now.
Matt, do you have any other notes about Samara?
I don't. Not
All right.
currently, anyway.
Would you like to jump over to our boy Garrus?
Yes. So here's something interesting. So those who listened to last week's 2 weeks ago's episode, which I assume you have, if not, welcome if this is your first episode. Strange place to start, but I'll go with it. Either way, I talked a lot at length about the decision I made, that I chose to step out of the way and let Garrus take the shot and kill Sidonis, which I'm still thinking about. But going into this conversation, I expected to be some additional discussion of it, but there isn't. My Shepard seems satisfied, which I'm starting to feel a disconnect from my Shepard a little bit, because I still don't feel kind of satisfied, and Garrus feels absolutely satisfied. It's like a weight off his shoulders. And so I struggled. It took me out of the game a little bit in that moment, because I expected the conversation to at least start one way, maybe start some more somber, and then branch out into them being, you know, space bros. And it didn't go that route. And it definitely broke the immersion for me for the first time since we've been playing these games. I imagine as we keep going and doing the other missions, it'll fall to the back of my mind, and it won't really bother me. But being so fresh from the last episode, I for the first time in a long time, I had the immersion broken for me, because I felt disconnected from this character I was trying to use as an avatar for me.
Yeah, I didn't have the same experience because I was very confident in my decision to stop Garrus.
Yeah.
And when I approached Garrus, like, would it have been nice to finally have a conversation about it? Sure. But at the same time, we did say everything we needed to say at the end of the last mission. And
Right.
Now he says, thank you for helping me. And then we kind of move on.
Yeah. And it is one of the most quoted conversations in Garrus history, although I feel like every quote that people quote from Mass Effect, like 90% of them are Garrus quotes anyway.
He gets the best quotes.
He does get the best quotes. But so this is a conversation. So Garrus opens up a little bit to us. We thank him for being on this journey with us. We talk to him about it a bit. And, you know, discussing, the same follow-up conversations we've had with a lot of people after their loyalty missions, about our odds, about the suicide mission, and about, you know, other aspects of the past of that teammate that might be relevant to moving forward. And so we talk about Garrus's regrets or lack thereof, and then military life for Garrus.
I had a slightly different conversation.
Oh, really?
Yeah, well, most of that.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, of course you would have a different conversation.
Most
with your
of that was
space
on par.
boyfriend.
Look, shut up, all right? So, a couple of things that Garrus says that are totally quotable. I like to expect the worst. There's a small chance I'll be pleasantly surprised, which such a mood. Just a mood throughout my entire life.
Yeah.
I chose to say I couldn't do this without you, and he says sure you could. Not as stylishly though. Which
Yeah, he said those lines to me too. Yeah, he's a conceited asshole in the best way.
yeah, well, he believes in you so much. He believes that you could do this without him. You're so capable that you don't really need him, but he's with you anyway.
Yeah, totally.
We also talk about if he misses being CSEC, and he says that he didn't think that he was a very good Turian. We talk about his experience sparring to work off stress, and how it's a good way to settle grudges. We get the whole reach and flexibility bit.
Yep.
And I hit this moment where Shepard could say, we could help each other work off that stress. And Garrus goes, sparring? Do you want to spar? Is that what we're talking about? And I have the option of saying, not what I meant. It wouldn't bother me. Or goodbye. And part of me just wanted to just be like, goodbye, to see what would happen, but I didn't. I thought about it for a little bit, because I chose to suggest that we could ease the stress together, because when I find a friend that, like, I'm comfortable with you, I trust you, I'm attracted to you, but I also value our friendship. If you like to, like, sleep together and still be friends, that's totally great. That's, like, my ideal situation. Fantastic. Like, bed friends are best friends. So when I'm speaking to Garrus, I'm not speaking to him as like, hey, I have immense feelings for you. Well, me personally, as MJ, I have immense feelings for Garrus at all times.
Know.
But my Shepherd is not necessarily saying that. She's saying like, hey, I'm really stressed out. Sex would be awesome. I trust you. You're like my best friend. I know that you're not going to dick me over in the end.
Sorry.
Unless I
have
ask.
the mind of a 5-year-old.
Consent, important.
No, yes. That's not what I was laughing about.
No,
yes.
I know. Never mind. So I chose to have that conversation. And Garrus, I love him, goes, why the hell not? There's no one I respect more in this galaxy than you. And I'm like, oh, great, we're on the same page. Because for me, intimacy is also about respect. So for Garrus to say, I respect you a lot, it says to me that, like, we're on the same page. And whether or not something develops out of a bed friendship, it's ambiguous. It could not. It could just be friends who like to sleep together. I have a few friends like that. It's fine. And, like, we're good friends regardless. And, like, some friendships just can't handle that. And that's fine, too.
Yeah.
So, I chose to say to Garrus, let's test your reach against my flexibility. Hey.
Uh-huh.
So, that's what I got.
Yeah. Yeah, our conversation went quite differently. I mean, it all up into the reach flexibility line, and then, like, essentially we continue to commiserate together, and, like, then I head on my way. Like, we cement our space bro friendship, but that's it.
Your space bromance?
Our space bromance, yeah. What's funny, what I really like, this may come to a shock to our listeners and my co-host, that I'm fairly sarcastic.
Are you? Josh, did you know this?
I thought he was completely deadpan.
Garrus is demeanor is like my ideal friend, right? Someone I can take the piss out of, who can dish it back, someone I can joke around with. Like, in real life, my closest friends are people I can get away with doing that to. And so while I feel the other friendships that are developing, you know, especially like with Tali and a few others, there are some best friend qualities in Garrus to me just because of the kind of personality he is and what I'm looking for. And so, like, the whole, you know, him being like, no, he's not as stylish and all that nonsense, like, that's the kind of shit I would say. And you're saying it. We must be best friends. You know, like, I want to yell the line from Step Brothers, like, oh my God, did we just become best friends? I think we're best friends.
So much room for calibrations.
Exactly.
All right. Any other notes?
No. Oh, go ahead, Josh.
Sorry, I'm not a very good Turian line. I think we hear a similar line from every Turian in all of the games that we get to talk to. So I'm really curious as to what the standards for a good Turian is, and why all these super soldiers seemingly miss the mark.
From what I understand, super polite, do your job, don't question your orders.
Ugh.
Yeah, that seems to be the case. Yeah, I know.
All right. Let's get into the deep dive.
Yep. So we, of course, are tipped off by Edie as we land, as Edie is wont to do, to go check in with Bailey and C-Sec. They may have more information, which we do. And MJ had noticed this sooner than I had, but I'm starting to see it now too. I unabashedly loved Bailey in my early playthroughs. I think both of us did. But MJ mentioned earlier in this season that the sheen wore off a little bit on Bailey. There's some like things that don't jibe anymore. And for me, I wasn't seeing it, but now I'm starting to. As we discuss certain things, and especially it's going to come back to when we talk about Kellum, like, I'm starting to see the shine wear off on Bailey. Like, ultimately, as a fan of the games, I love his character, right? The fact that he's complex and I don't necessarily agree with him, and the voice actor who plays him is phenomenal, like, makes for a great character. But as my shepherd, I'm starting to give him a little bit of side eye, like, I don't know about you.
Yeah. I'm going to say this up front. I think I was a little inauthentic with my shepherd during this mission.
Okay.
I think I was tired. I wanted to get through the mission and take my notes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I took some actions that I wouldn't have taken if I had played it, like, fresh and not stressed out.
Okay.
So
I mean, that's fair. Look, we are imperfect beings.
Yeah. So we'll get to it when we get to it, and I'll talk about what I did versus what I wish I had done. But yeah, Bailey, I appreciate that Bailey is on Thane's side and that he wants to help Thane find Kolyat and fix the mistakes.
Yeah.
And that makes him very human. I just still think he's not a great cop.
Yeah, I think also, like, it's clear that Bailey is obviously having, and we find out more details about this, I think, in the next game, but, like, Bailey has his own difficulties at home with his own family, and so clearly this rings from somewhere very specific and very true. When we're getting the information from Bailey and talking about Mouse, the way, like, when you ask about what a duct rat is, and he's telling you and talking about these kids and, like, pulling bodies out of the ducts, and that these kids get killed and aren't taken care of, and it's mostly children of the poor or poor families, like, it's just gross. And, like, I know it's supposed to be gross, that's the point, like, but it like, I felt it more this time than I have in the past. Like, I just feel bad for this. It feels coming from a place of stigma and also possibly even racism a little bit, like, it just felt gross all over. Which I don't think is something that had affected me as much in the past when talking about these kids.
Yeah, I think what we see with Bailey is, like, the classic gray cop, right? Like, if he had a Boston accent and was played by Ben Affleck, we would all have seen this 1,000 times. Sign me up for that prequel movie, by the way. But I just, man, he's so desensitized when he's explaining the kids and the duck tracks and there's no sympathy, but there's also, like, no malice. There's just this is what happens.
Yeah, every couple of months we pull a little body out of them. I'm just like, how can you say that like that? Like, you pull a child out of the... What? Why are you not taking precautions to protect them in the ducts? Like, I understand why the kids end up in the ducts, because they're poor, they have nowhere safe to go. Like, why aren't you... this is a future place, and it is still a shithole. Like, how can we be in the future and there's still poverty this bad that there are children who are not safe on the Citadel? Like, this is supposed to be the utopia.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the whole point, right? Especially when dealing with sci-fi, is that it looks utopian, but rarely is.
I know, I'm just angry about it.
That's fair.
Like, poor little babies. I just wanted my shepherd to be like, hi, I'm gonna go open some kind of, like, I don't know, fund for all the children on the Citadel, because fuck you guys. Can't trust any of you to do anything.
Yeah.
So angry.
But, yeah. I mean, like I said, I felt this more than I had ever before. And I think that's part of it, what Josh said, like the lack of empathy or disdain or anything, anger, nothing, like being completely emotionless about it. But, I have to assume, not having served in any kind of armed force or been a policeman, like, I have to assume there's a level of that, right? If you're seeing terrible shit all the time, you have to have some level of detachment in order to survive. It's just jarring, as a civilian at least, to have to engage with it.
As somebody who works pretty closely as an Op 4 with police officers, that's a civilian advisor, you see it all the time, and it's this very honest, detached, if I allow myself to have any kind of attachment to these facts, I will not be able to function.
Yeah.
And it's kind of impressive to see a video game replicate that particular mindset so perfectly, and really jarring to see it in what, again, is supposed to be the utopian, happy super universe.
Yeah.
I really want to know how Bailey fucked up with his kid.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I want to see that movie so bad.
Because he definitely did. He's so, like, on Thane's side, because you're trying to fix, like, your mistakes, and, like, you're trying to stop your son from making the worst mistake of his life, and I hate seeing kids make these bad decisions because it's all their parents' fault. And I'm like, what'd you do?
Yeah.
Are we 100% sure his kid's still alive?
Might not be. We don't know.
Like, he doesn't mention whether or not his kids are still alive, right?
No.
Not in this game. I feel like there's conversations about his family in the next game, but I can't recall.
Yeah.
We'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
Yeah. There is a conversation about his family, but I don't think we ever discover it in Mass Effect 2.
No, I don't think so either.
We do find out.
But yeah, so this conversation, of course, Bailey continues to be the guy who knows everything, or knows somebody who knows everything. And so he connects us with Mouse, who is an adult who was a duct rat, who still he does under the table deals and kind of just does whatever he can to survive. And also apparently, what was that, MJ?
Go ahead. Keep talking.
I was just going to say, and apparently also sells broken VIs of famous people, including Shepard. And when Shepard's told this, he's like, I'm sorry, come again? What'd you say?
I had Garrus with me, and he was just like, this is the best thing I've ever fucking heard.
Yeah, I had Jack with me, and she didn't say a damn thing. She was probably laughing at me, but she didn't say a word.
Nope, Garrus loved it, and I got to say to him, yeah, laugh it up. Keep going. Apparently, Shepard says, I delete data like you on my way to real errors.
Yeah, that line, like, wow. Yeah. Okay.
Can I get Clippy to say that? Can we bring back Windows 95?
Now I'm picturing Clippy, but in the Shepard armor with a tiny little Omni tool. Like,
I'm ready.
I don't even know how that would work, but I'm into it.
We know people. We'll figure it out.
That's true. If anyone wants to draw fan art of Clippy as Shepard, please tweet it at us, email us, do that.
So Bailey tells us about Mouse. And we go and we find Mouse over by Darkstar. And I love That Mouse is like, Krios? I thought you retired. Shepard? I thought you died.
Yeah, like, Mouse is having a bad day.
Like, too much happening at once. What's going on?
Yeah, and what I love about this is, like, after you have your conversation with Mouse, Thane is like, yeah, he said Mouse. I didn't think it could be the same Mouse. And I'm like, dude, really? Like, how many people do you know named Mouse?
I mean, I feel like that would be a common duck rat name.
I have, maybe?
I don't know. I feel like you would get a couple of kids who are like, I'm a duck rat. I'm going to go buy a mouse. I feel, yeah. I don't know. That's what they sound like in my head.
They all sound like Dickens orphans in my head, so I don't know what to tell you. Please, sir, can I have some creds?
Oh my god. Oh, I just had a really, really sad mental image of like a young Quarian orphan. And I'm like, how would that even happen? How would you get to the Citadel? What is your story, small orphan that I just imagined?
They are definitely the Tiny Tim of this Dickens thing.
Yikes.
Oh my god. So one thing that I really liked about this conversation with Mouse is that Thane is actually really gentle with him.
Yeah.
You know, he does say something like a little tough, like, calm yourself, you'll be able to wet your pants later. But he's gentle with him. Like, it's definitely a joke. It's definitely like, I am that same person who, like, took care of you when you were a kid. You know, we also find out that Thane took a hollow of him, which was like a picture. And he relives this memory, and he talks about how Mouse wanted to make sure that someone would remember him. And it was like, oh yeah, break my heart over this character that I talked to for 5 seconds. Do that. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, because the Drell can slip into memory so easily, it's always jarring when they do it. But that's the point, right? Like, the camera gets super tight on him. It gets really stylistic as he like recounts this memory. You know, it's done in a way that it's supposed to be a little jarring, because I think that's the experience that Drell have as well. Like, they can't control it. They just slip into memory and then recite it.
Did you get a VI out of Mouse?
I did.
I did too.
I haven't done anything with it yet, but I got it.
I don't know what I can do with it, but I have it.
It's pretty funny.
Yeah, I think that you can either, like, you can put it on the ship, or I know there's a way to see the Shepard VI. Like, you can interact with it at one point. I just don't remember when or where. So we'll get to that at some point.
I know it makes an appearance in 3. I don't know where though.
Yeah. But with the conversation talking to Mouse, we get some insight on the fact that Mouse is just an information guy, which we knew, and that he didn't hire Kolyat, obviously. A guy named Kellum did, who is a, like, big time business gangster. What? Yeah, I mean, pretty much. I mean, once we talk to him, he sounds like he's from the Bronx. Like,
he does.
He's just some guy from New York.
Why is this part of the game just Space Manhattan in the 70s?
Really? I know. It really is between the orphans and the space gangster. Like, it really is.
The dirty cop. I mean, come on.
Also, Matt, did you take the Renegade trigger?
I didn't hear.
I did not. Okay. Neither of us were mean to Mouse for no reason.
Yeah, it just didn't seem to serve any purpose. I did choose, like, the I think the Renegade choice, like, not an actual Renegade choice, but the more negative choice at the end to, like, tell him to take a hike, essentially, like, to get moving. I just was, I wanted to move on, and I wanted him to clear out fast so we could catch up and sync up our plan. And he just, like, walks away pretty much grumbling under his breath about, like, if this doesn't go, if you can't protect me, I'm pretty much dead. But
poor Mouse.
And then you have, like, an aside with Thane kind of syncing up, where Thane tells you, I couldn't imagine it'd be the same Mouse. Whatever. Anyway. And so then instead of, like, other missions where you get the information and you go out about your business, we're kind of still at another dead end. Like, we know Kellum's responsible. We don't know who he is or how to communicate with him. And so we go back to Bailey.
Yep. And this is where I get mad at Bailey again.
Oh yeah, this is the corrupt cop 101 session. Bailey, you bring up Kellum, and Bailey's like, "Uh-oh," and you're like, "What do you mean, uh-oh?" Essentially, and Bailey explains, like, he buys his tickets to the policeman's ball for me. I make sure that there's not a lot of trouble for him. We have a status quo, and like my shepherd lost it at that point. He's like, "I'm sorry." Because this now personally affects you, you're not so eager to help anymore? What's that about?
Yeah, I had the same reaction. This is why I'm like, Bailey, my man. No. Like, you're a cop, my friend. No. And John and I actually got into an argument about this earlier because John is very, like, pro Bailey and, like, yeah, he's doing what he has to do. And I'm like, agree to disagree.
I mean,
I feel like there had to be another way.
Yeah, we can acknowledge that it's unacceptable behavior and also acknowledge that it doesn't look like the Citadel has a lot in the way of social safety nets or legal recourse for the police. I am curious to see what the DA's office of the Citadel looks like and if it exists.
Yeah.
Because whenever Bailey talks about his job and doing what he has to do, you don't hear a lot of cops in like current actual real life media talk about being alone or not having a support network. But Bailey's like, we have to do what we have to do here in the wards. And you go, okay, why? What is the political reality that has led to this nonsense?
Yeah, exactly. Like, there shouldn't be such... This really shouldn't be the situation on the Citadel. Like, I guess you can say that it is because it was almost destroyed 2 years ago and it's, like, being rebuilt. But, honestly, it shouldn't have been that bad.
And you could talk about poverty. You could talk about how cops that are more likely to be dirty are more likely to be assigned to the lower wards. Like, that's a really interesting conversation that maybe keep out of my space fantasy. I don't know.
Yeah. And, like, you can, at this point, lean on Bailey to give him hell for what he's doing. And he bounces back pretty quick. He's like, no,
Yeah.
I'm still going to help. I haven't changed my mind. I just have to think strategically on how to do this now.
Which is fair, I guess.
And my shepherd essentially was begrudgingly like, okay, fine. Like, what can you do? Like, let's get this done. And the end result ends up them bringing in Kellum on like a minor nothing charge and have him interrogated, and then for you to get what you need out of him while Bailey delays his lawyer from getting involved.
So
this all around is just shady shit from left to right, from top to bottom.
Yeah. So this is the part where I feel I was inauthentic to my shepherd.
Mm-hmm.
Because I took the renegade triggers and, like, I feel like it was really hypocritical of me because me waxing on about, like, I can't believe that you beat up your, God, what's the word that I'm looking for?
Suspects?
Suspects, thank you. I don't think that was the word, but yes, suspects. But, like, you bring people in and to interrogate them and you, like, torture them to get the answers you want. Like, that's bullshit. How dare you? And I did exactly that thing. And I think, again, as I said, I was tired. I just wanted to get through the mission, and I wasn't really thinking about what my shepherd would have done. And I was just thinking about what was going to get me what I wanted, which was the answer. So
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think that's interesting. So I think I was more authentic to my shepherd here than I had been before due to previous events.
Okay.
So to give some... what's the word I'm looking for? Perspective. There it is. I got there.
Hey.
Yeah, I got there. So when Kellum is brought in, you and Thane get to play good cop, bad cop. Here I said, why don't you be good cop and I'll be bad cop? Because my shepherd and shepherd in general is pretty good at being intimidating. I mean, there's a legacy there. You were thought to be dead for years. Like, there's some depth to that intimidation. But while we're interrogating, like, I'm playing it pretty Paragon. Like, I'm trying to coerce the information out of him. And I don't know how many renegade triggers there are here, but I ignore 2 of them. And then as we're starting to run out of time and Thane comes to be, my frustration with myself and my ability recently to not be able to make snap decisions, I hit the third renegade trigger, which at that point you kind of just you punch Kellum once and then like hold your arm over him and like force him to give you the information. You don't really rough him up, you just intimidate him. And in that moment I went, well, that's definitely something my out of patience, mad at himself, frustrated shepherd would have done. And it just felt very authentic to the recent events with Garrus and some other decisions I've made, that I was afraid that when I picked that renegade option, it would have been much worse, and still not good, but much worse. And the fact that it wasn't, that it was just mostly a display of frustration and urgency to get the information through an aggressive act, seemed in line with the way my shepherd had been acting lately. That he's getting tired, he's frustrated, he's just trying to get the job done because of so much that's at stake, and he's starting to crack under the pressure a little bit. And it was a fascinating way to see this story play out. A story that I've seen, again, countless times, but identify with it more just based on my previous decisions.
When I played through this, I actually didn't take any of the renegade triggers. I played Super Paragon, and you get ridiculed, right? Like the interrogation does not go well. You get insulted, and each trigger that comes up, oh God, you really want to just you've got every reason to want to lay into him. And if you don't, and the lawyer shows up, you kind of just get to wave your magic specter hand, and you're rewarded for your patience. And I think it's the least crappy of the outcomes, but you get insulted for 5 minutes in a video game.
Yeah, I don't think that... maybe I wouldn't have lasted through that, because, moving through this world as a femme-presenting person, I think I'd get tired of that real fast.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Maybe I wouldn't have lasted. Maybe I am not as strong as I think that I am.
It's hard to say. It's a really well-done scene. I do like also... talking about cinematography in this game. So Kellum's on a flatbed, strapped in, and you both enter behind him. And the way they frame the shot, Shepard and Thane walk in together with their arms they put their arms behind their back, they look at each other, and then walk in opposite directions to the other side of Kellum. And it's just really such a police movie moment. It's really great. I love that, sense of teamwork as they try and, coerce information out of this guy. It was a very cinematic moment.
Yeah, so much of this particular mission feels like an old school procedural drama.
Uh-huh.
And that's a trope you can get hung up on, and it feels really smooth. It feels really effective, which is great. This is one of my favorites.
So Kellum finally tells us that the target is a Turian politician named Joram Talid. Matt, are you still there?
I'm sorry, I heard you cut out after Joram Talid.
I just didn't say anything.
Oh, okay.
I expected you to say something.
Nope, I was waiting for you to finish your thought. Well done.
That was the end of the thought. We were sent after Joram Talid.
Well, I may or may not be able to edit this bit out, but at least it'll be good for laughs as I take notes now.
Hello, I'm really tired.
It's fine. So we find out that this is a Turian politician who is decidedly anti-human. And Matt Storm in that moment went, fucking dickhead politician. I don't want to deal with this shit. Fuck this guy. Which is probably the most cursing I've done in a row on this podcast. But I'm just considering, if you are a member of the United States and the political climate that we are in, I don't want to hear about any politician being anti-anything at this point. I just had no patience for it.
My response to finding out that he was anti-human was, what a mood.
I mean, you're not wrong.
We've seen so much anti-quote-unquote alien resentment because we're part of Cerberus, and we see it a lot in Ashley in the last game. And I'm like, an anti-human character with political clout, at least this will be interesting. I'll probably want to shoot this person in the face, but let me hear him. Let me see it.
Yeah, I was done. But that said, of course I engaged. And so we move on to the next section of the mission. Once we have this information, we find out that he's glad handing in a sector of the wards. And so Bailey helps you get over to that area so you can find him. And so we get to this next cinematic section where you're talking to Thane to figure out what to do. And Thane's like, look, I will go somewhere to the darkest corner with the best vantage point while you hit the rafters and keep me updated. And it's from that moment to the end of that scene where it's just the most Thane thing that could happen, where he says a prayer to himself, which he does often, and then, like, the cliche ninja in a crowd looks up, two people pass by him, and he's gone. And I've seen this scene in movies so many times. I've seen it in this damn game so many times. And still every time I giggle and go, that was so cool. Because it's so beautifully framed and shot. Finger quotes
really
shot.
good at cloaking.
Yes, exactly. That's it.
It's less impressive when we know that there's a move for it.
Right, of course. No, you're absolutely right that it's all tech. But it's still neat.
Or is it? Or is he a ghost? Who knows?
He is dying. Too soon.
It's always too soon. How dare you? It's been 10 years. Why would you do this?
And now this next part is another way that Mass Effect 2 has you engage with story in an interesting way without it being combat. You have to tail Joram and follow him from the rafters and give Thane updates. And if you don't get into position in a fast enough time, the mission fails. And, it's really interesting to do something like this because there's no other section of the game that you do anything like this. It's a one-time mechanic.
By interesting, do you mean annoying?
I mean, I thought it was fine. Why?
Oh, I just hate it. I just hate it. That's all.
Was it too stressful for you?
It wasn't stressful, but Josh, what were you going to say?
I found a certain level of, like, theatrical irony in looking for the best vantage point to not kill someone for your friend,
Yes.
the assassin.
Yeah,
like,
that's also true.
Like, why am I doing this?
Who clearly said, I'll be in the darkest corner with the best view. I'm in the rafters looking at some dude's head.
Why do I have to give you an update if you have the best view? What is happening?
And it's kind of like this beautiful irony. I get it. Like, I get the story that's happening. I get the beautiful character progression. It's cool and amazing. But, like, man, I just walked into a wall because this room isn't really lit and my screen has the resolution down low and there's no contrast and I want to go home.
Making your way through the rafters, you run into essentially a dock worker.
Wait, you're jumping ahead, my friend.
Okay, fine.
So we have to follow Joram to lead, who's walking around with his Krogan bodyguard. When we first meet him, he's talking to a bunch of voters. And I just want to point out that he says something like, what have the humans ever done in here that was good? And a Solarian he's talking to is like, I like their food.
I have no recollection of this and need to play this game again now.
Well, I stayed throughout his whole spiel because I never listened to all of it before.
Right.
So it was, and then Joram replies saying like, "I'll have to take your word for it. I can't eat their food."
It's also funny that for the most part, every time you click on him and do the update, the whole conversation with Thane ends with Joram going, "I hope you'll turn out on election day," and it happens like 6 times. And
yeah,
it's another part where like the meta took me out of the game a little bit just because like it's the same line, the same way, multiple times. Like at least have the actor do multiple line reads that you can swap between. Like it was just so video gamey in that moment.
Yeah, we follow through the Citadel, watching this guy reporting to Thane. It looks like he's talking to voters. He's shaking down businesses. There's a moment where it seems like he's spooked, and Thane goes, "Maybe he noticed you." And then your shepherd says, or maybe he noticed Kolyat. And I feel like Thane is like, maybe he noticed Kolyat.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's definitely that. And like then all the Krogans that he's talking to just call him call Joram paranoid.
Just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not out to get you.
True.
That's true. Words to live by.
And then we run into this person on the catwalk doing his little turn on the catwalk.
Who's literally like, you shouldn't be here. And Shepard does the sci-fi equivalent of, we're all fine here now. How are you? Like, stumbles through, like essentially goes, I'm the inspector, and I'm supposed to be up here to see things. And, like, this guy sees right through your bullshit. He's like, oh, just go through here. Just get out. Like, just doesn't want to be bothered.
Well, that's the Paragon.
Really funny.
That's the Paragon approach. But, like, yes, I did that too. Of like, I'm the Citadel health inspector. How dare you?
Yeah. And, like, this guy, the worker who's up there sees right through your bullshit. He's not, like, he accepts it and then just goes, whatever, just go. Like,
I love that in the procedural cop drama mission, we get the Law and Order dock worker. We get the guy moving boxes.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, essentially, yeah.
What a
you're
beautiful
not wrong.
touch.
The next section is a little chaotic.
Yeah.
Because we have that interaction with that guy. We
Yep.
go through a door, and then we get a cutscene automatically where we see Joram walking, we see Kolyat sneaking up behind him, and then Shepard, like, shouts his name, and then, like, a whole bunch of things happen all at once. Kolyat, I guess, kills someone?
Yeah, so he shoots one of the bodyguards.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess he kills one of the bodyguards. Like, it never connected for me that he ever did that, because I thought that his shot missed, honestly.
So did I, legitimately. The fact that he's killed a bodyguard, maybe if I was aware of that, maybe this is like poor scene design?
Yeah, I think it was just very chaotic, like I said. So that happens. We chase after him. Thane and Shepard are hot on his tail. And then the scene cuts to the apartment, Joram's apartment, with Kolyat holding a gun to his head and Joram on his knees. And I'm like, how did he get here?
Well, so it's so Shepard and Thane yell. They've headed for Joram's apartment, and like they chase into the apartment. What's really interesting about how the shot's framed, though, is like it cuts to the apartment, and all you see is Joram Talid standing there, and there's a beat before he drops to his knees and put his hand behind his head, and you see Kolyat behind him. And while the whole scene up until that point was chaotic, I thought that was incredible framing to give you an instant anxiety attack of like, oh god, something's about to happen. Oh my god, don't do it. You know?
The opening of that moment was great, but the transition was very choppy.
Correct. Yeah.
Like going straight from that chaos to this like cinematically interesting moment was just like, what?
Yeah, it was very video gamey in that moment. The fluidity didn't mesh perfectly, but once we're in that scene, like it's framed, and like it's a dark apartment with the lights off, but there's light from the outside. Like it's just, again, cop show, right? Like it's framed like a procedural. And done really well. And I think the shaky cam kind of running scene is an homage to that too. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if whoever wrote this scene, if it was one person or whoever worked on it, was going for that vibe. Because while I never thought of it at the forefront of my mind, now that Josh mentions that, like, I absolutely see it through the whole mission. Like, it totally lines up pretty well.
I really want a Mass Effect Bailey in his 30s police drama so badly.
Oh my god, I would watch the hell out of that.
My whole soul.
Who's the Horatio Kane? Is it Shepard? I think Shepard is Horatio Kane.
I mean, maybe. I think Garrus is Horatio Kane.
Garrus is dad. He's C-Sec. It could happen.
Yeah, it's true. Oh, Garrus is dad. I wish we got to meet him in this game.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, this final scene, Kolyat has a gun to his head, and like, so this is really interesting. So Kolyat doesn't want to talk. he's mad at Thane in this moment and just wants to finish him off. And the Paragon thing that you can do in this scene, which I'm assuming you took the Paragon quick action as well, right?
Mm-hmm. I did.
Is like shoot off to the side to spook him and then punch him.
He looks so hurt and offended that you punched him. Like, he's holding his face like, what?
Like, did you just do that? It's just, yeah, it's really great.
Oh, baby, assassin work is not for you.
Yeah. He's really a dejected emo boy. Like, he really is. Like, because even when the conversation starts, the way he talks with this kind of, like, tone, like he's so exasperated all the time.
Well, let's say
like
something
he's a
really
kid.
important.
Yeah.
Kolyat's feelings about his father are completely valid.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
Of course.
He's not obligated to forgive Thane for anything. So
Yep.
let's get that out of the way.
For sure, yeah. And, like, what's really interesting is how this conversation transpires next. Like, it's a really interesting exchange between two people who you don't know that well, but in that moment you get to know them almost incredibly perfectly, like crystalline, just based on how they respond and the conversation and how it progresses.
I have a question about how either of you responded to Kolyat. You could have said, Thane's dying, calm down, or he did this for you.
I said Thane's dying.
I said Thane's dying as well. I'm curious as to why you did.
So I logically used it as a technique of diffusion. I was hoping that something important and shocking like that would kind of snap someone out of it, like bring them to attention, get them focused.
I clicked on it.
It was essentially a ploy to, like, bring Kolyat in, to, like, give him a shot.
Okay. I clicked on it because it was the only objective fact that I could say. Like, he did this for you.
True.
I don't know. Calm down.
Yeah,
don't say that to people with
Yeah,
guns.
no, exactly.
No.
So
Don't tell an angry person to calm down. That's not a good idea.
for me, all those three options, I was like, oh, none of this is my business. I was just supposed to find you. I don't want to tell you that your dad's dying. That's not my business. I don't want to I don't want to say any of this. So I wound up saying, he did this for you. Because, like, it's not my business to tell you that your dad's dying. That's him. He has to tell you that. I'm not telling you to calm down. So, like, he did this because he loves you. Okay, bye. But also, what you actually end up saying is not that. You end up saying, like, your dad and I have shot a lot of people and killed a lot of people in our past. There's no reason for you to start. Which is, I was like, oh, that's actually a really good point. I'm glad I said that. Because it's true. There's no reason for you to start. Like, at least not now, not this way.
Yeah, to speak slightly personally, when I was in boot camp, I met about a dozen Kolyats, and in the field, more. There are kids of military dads. Usually, their dads are either Marines, Special Forces, or, something with a reputation, and all they want to do is have that reputation. And all their dad wants them to do is literally anything else. So I was watching the scene, and I'm like, wow, somebody was a military brat who enlisted. Like, this is a true, real thing. I have seen this conversation. I have heard the aftermath of this conversation. That kid is fucked.
So we find a little bit more out about Thane and what happened, like why he left his son. His wife, Erica, was killed by people who wanted to hurt Thane, so he left to hunt them down and kill all of them. And when he came back, Kolyat was like an adult. And he was just like, oh no, I made a bad choice.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I think Thane is realizing it even more the more he talks about these moments. Like, in this conversation, you can tell that while Thane felt bad about it, he felt worse even recounting it because it continues to pain him that he made that kind of a decision and screwed up like that.
Yeah, I mean, this is the kind of curse that Drell have to deal with because all of their memories exist at all times for them. They can slip into these moments so easily.
Well, yeah, and like at my first time playing through this, my thought was that like because after they talk here and Kolyat realizes what happened, Kolyat starts to cry pretty quickly, and at first I was like, well, that seems a little disconnected. But honestly, even if Kolyat doesn't talk about slipping into the memory or has nothing to say about it, if he's slipping into the memory of his mom dying or his dad leaving at any moment during that conversation, of course he's going to start to cry. He doesn't have any control over that.
And like we talk about, the curse of the Drell and that memory, I wonder, that's probably part of what makes them so useful to the Hanar, right? Like, you remember every martial move you've ever learned. You remember every kill. You remember everything. You're going to be haunted by it for the rest of your life. But it makes you a really reasonably, like, gifted assassin, just baseline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh, the Hanar.
So after this moment happens, Bailey shows up with some other officers, and he's like, "You shouldn't be having this conversation. It's not public. Let's go back to the station. He did kill a guy, but let's bring you back to the station so you can have this conversation in private." And Shepard asks again. He's like, Why are you helping them? You could just arrest him and drag him away, but you're taking them both and you're giving them a private room. Why?" And Bailey again makes it pretty clear that he, based on his own experience, he wants to give a dad an opportunity to make amends to the best of his ability.
Because Bailey screwed up.
Obviously.
I need more about Bailey. I need so much more all the time. And after this, I need more.
Bailey done fucked up.
Hell yeah, he did.
I do really like something that Thane says to Kolyat. Again, it does not make up for all the pain that Kolyat has experienced and all the trauma he suffered. But I do like the quote itself, which was, "You're the only good thing I ever added to it," meaning the world.
Yeah.
And it speaks to the love he has for his child, and I appreciate that. I just also don't want it to wipe out that Kolyat's feelings are valid.
For sure. But it does seem like Kolyat was coming from a place of, like he based on the information he had, he was angry and felt a certain way. But it's clear that he was open to accepting additional information once he received it, which is up to him, right? Like, what's really interesting is like, the cutscene ends, and then we get a loading screen, and we get the mission complete screen, and then we get the completion of the mission, which...
Yeah, we get the aftermath.
No other mission does that I can think of. Most of the time we get the mission summary when it's resolved, and then we load up to a screen either back on the ship or... Well, I guess that's not true. Some of the ship resolutions happen after the mission complete. Yeah. So I guess that's not 100% true. But anyway, you're talking to Bailey while you're waiting for Thane, and Bailey brings up that there was a Drell on the Citadel 10 years ago when so-and-so died. And you get the option to in some way or another go, there's no way you can this on Thane.
Yeah, I took the renegade route, which was, a person like that is not someone you want to fuck with.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I said, too. Because I was kind of done with Bailey at that point.
I took the Paragon route. I was, trying to just, hey, I don't know what you don't know, and you don't know what I don't know.
Yeah, I felt very defensive of Thane. I was just like, please do not fuck with him right now. Please.
Now is not the time. And then after that conversation, Thane joins you and, talks about how, while nothing's fixed, it's a start. And that they're going to continue to talk, which is good.
And then Kolyat gets community service.
Which is super interesting, right? Because there's a dialogue option, and I don't remember all of them because I'm bad at this. But where Bailey says, community service for something like this would be super difficult or whatever, and Commander Shepard can basically go, figure it out.
It's true.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because he brings up there's no judge on the Citadel who would give someone community service for murder. and you do exactly that. You're like, I don't care, make it happen, figure it out.
Well, I say it has to stay out of the judiciary.
Yeah.
That's what I said.
Oh yeah. And it's just funny because it's kind of a little bit like Shepard throwing it back in Bailey's face, like Bailey always talking about how he has to take things into his own hands a little bit, and like they don't have the backup they need. And Shepard's kind of like, well, your hands can do this in the past, so get it done now, kind of a thing, you know?
What kind of community service does a semi-professional sniper do?
Good question.
Interning with CSEC.
Oh.
I have so many questions. Long-range mural painting? I don't.
I think he's gonna do an internship with CSEC.
I mean, we have to
Space
guess,
Robin.
right? Like, what else could it be?
I hope.
Okay. Any other notes?
No, I think that kind of sums up this mission pretty well.
Josh, you got anything?
Hyper competent. I guess calling him a military father is a bit of a stretch, but that's the only real world analog we have. Hyper competent military fathers with rebellious kids who want to go do the same thing their dad did is a trope we see a lot in police procedurals, in crime movies, in sci-fi. And to see there not be a magical solution to the relationship, to see it be, we're trying, this is a start, community service, to see it being made into a longer effort rather than an episodic solution is such a cool choice by the writers.
Yeah.
It's not perfect. Sure. Obviously, there's daddy issues abound in Mass Effect, and we see too many quick fixes. But this was such a cool way to handle this particular trope. I'm really impressed by it. To this day, it holds up.
Agreed.
Okay. Fandom Corner?
Yes.
Fandom Corner! Okay. I found something really cool and cuddly.
Of course you did.
Oh my god.
Mass Effect pillow plushies made to order by Zelly or Jelly, Zhelly on Etsy. They have a Garrus.
They're very cute. They remind me of the WWE, although at the time WWF, like the Basham Buddies plushie, like
holy crap,
plushie wrestlers. Like it's the same kind of vibe.
I haven't thought about any of that since I was in elementary school. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I had 2 of them, and now I need all of these.
Matt, there's a Jack.
I saw. I think the Jack is cute.
You can have your very own cuddly Jack.
I need the
very
Vega.
own cuddly Jack. I mean, we both know that Jack is just a go-between. Like, I like Jack a lot, but also, like, you know, my heart is still with Caden, I think.
Whoa. I will not spoil anything.
Yeah.
But I will say that I have a hard disagree, and that Jack in the third game is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thing that everyone should pay attention to. And how dare you, sir?
I mean, I will say, like, I unexpectedly fell for Jack in this game. Like, for sure, like, after bouncing off Caden because he wanted nothing to do with us, as he's my survivor, like, I found a lot of camaraderie in Jack that I was looking for, and that developed into feelings, and I'm pursuing it currently. And I joke a little, but it's hard to say. This is unfamiliar territory from a meta standpoint. Like, I've never romanced Jack before, but it felt natural within the game world for my Shepard, and so I'm curious. But that said, the Caden one's pretty cute. Pillow, that is, the Caden pillow.
Caden is adorable. Let me make that very clear.
Also true.
Pillow or not.
But these pillows are great. They're only $25 and they're a good size. Like, I think that's great. Go buy them. We'll link it in the show notes. From Zhelly on Etsy.
His little face.
That's a serious jawline.
Oh, the Garrus face is really good on it.
That's a serious jawline. Is George Clooney a Turian? What is happening?
They're all really good. Though I like that Vega, a character we don't meet until Mass Effect 3, is actually listed as Vegas on this.
Yeah.
There's that.
I love Vega so much. Please keep me in mind for when you guys play 3 for anything Vega related. And maybe Jack related. Just, you have my number.
Yeah. We'll be in touch.
In addition, we have something second for Fandom Corner. I would like to shoot it over to Josh to talk about our future one-shot.
So, some amazing fans of Mass Effect put together a 5E Mass Effect system using the Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition rules. And I am happy to say that with MJ and Matt, I'm going to put together the Blasto Holiday Special, localized for your planet's solstice traditions.
Yay.
And, oh buddy, is it a doozy.
I'm very excited about this.
It's been no secret that we wanted to do a Mass Effect live play sort of thing, and it didn't work out last season due to conflicts and a myriad of other things. It didn't happen. The one that was supposed to happen then, we still want to do at some point. But in the interim, Josh had presented us with this, and so in the not too far flung future, at some point, we are going to record and play this one shot, the Blasto Christmas special, where whoever's playing Blasto has to make those deliveries as Blasto. You know, you have to be.
Hey, Matt, guess who's playing Blasto?
What was that?
I said, hey, Matt, guess who's playing Blasto?
Who's playing Blasto?
You. You're playing
Really?
Blasto. Congratulations.
Excellent. Sweet. I will happily play as Blasto and deliver this one's badass shots and camera winks. This one has a bounty to take out, you bastard.
Rocks fall, everyone dies.
Yay.
So you can look forward to that later this season. Josh, thank you for bringing that to us. We're very excited to do that. That's going to be a lot of fun.
So our next episode is Treason with Jeff Richardson. He does the Shattered Worlds podcast. He is one of our pod friends. We've talked to him before. We talk to him on our Discord channel whenever he's available. And we can't wait to introduce him to you guys.
We would also like in this moment to thank Josh for being on the podcast. Josh, thank you for joining us and discussing this mission with us. It's been a blast having you.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been so fun.
Yay. So, Josh, if you would like to promote your stuff, now is the time.
Feel free to check out at Swords and Stupidity on Instagram and the Haberbashery on Facebook. That's haberdashery, but with a B, because violence is an accessory to theater, and we think we're clever. Puns in space.
Oh my god. You're fired. If you like what you heard here, please follow us on social media. You can find us at ReignitePod on Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, Facebook.com/ReignitePod, or send us an email at reignitepod@gmail.com. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe on your favorite podcatcher. It helps us get seen so other people can find us.
We're members of the Certain Point of View Network. Visit certainpov.com to find more nerdy podcasts, each with a unique point of view. You can also find a permanent invite link to our Discord server on that very website, where you can join in the conversation and chat about this podcast and all the others on the network.
We also do other things. I do a podcast called The Circle of Friendship, which is a podcast about the Circle of Magic by Tamara Pierce. We discuss friendship, magic, and Briar Moss. You can find that at COFPod on Twitter. I also do another one called The Rob Thomas, No Not That One, Robcast, which is at Not That Robcast on Twitter, where we discuss the works of Rob Thomas. No, not that one. Matt, what do you do?
You can find 3 of my podcasts here on the Certain Point of View Network, as well as another interview series that I do outside of the network. All of that is on my Twitter, DJ_Stormageddon. Also, I do a lot of Twitch streaming, although recently I've been taking a small break just due to some personal stuff that had come up. But I stream at twitch.tv/DJ_Stormageddon. I'd been playing the new Pokemon. As the year wraps up, I might start playing some other games depending on what I get for the holidays. But you can definitely check that stuff out. I try to stream at least once or twice a week. The end of the year is going to be a little rocky, but I'm going to kick into it in high gear, hopefully in 2020.
We'd like to thank Christina Red Spinks for our It's Okay to Be a Marshmallow t-shirt on Redbubble featuring our favorite marshmallow, Kaden Alenko. You can find more of their work at Chaos Does Art on Instagram. We'd also like to thank David Boyle for designing our logo, which you can also get on a shirt through Redbubble, and Dan Bull for letting us use the Mass Effect rap for our theme music. I'm MJ.
And I am Matt, aka Stormageddon.
And I'm Josh Coslar, and this is my favorite holiday season on the Citadel.
You're listening to Reignite. I'm Commander Shepard, and this is my favorite podcast on the Citadel.
I'm Commander Shepard, the man with the method to brandish a weapon and handle the gas with it. I'm an effortless hero. My rhymes shine brighter than element zero, bringing more fire than Emperor Nero. It's the end of an era. Yo, there's something mysterious with siren arterias committing violence against Nihilus. I'm furious. I'm chasing from place to place, base to base until we're face to face. I'm serious. From the serious relay to Artemis Tau, I'll tighten the net. I'm not far from it now. I'll fight all the get till a bastard is found. I'll leave his heart in the ground. I'm the Southpaw outlaw scoundrel, bringing down more tools than a whole ground force. Listen out now, fool, it's pretty damn doubtful that I'll be sitting down with the Citadel Council. The Reapers are keen to bring about your downfall, so me and my team are about to flout laws. I'll introduce you to the whole of my party. Garrus, Liara, Tazzoni and Tali, Rex, Kaiden, Ashley, Joker, the army. You roll with an Asari, older than Atari, a Kroger that'll leave you cold within a heartbeat. My team's hotter than a stolen Ferrari. Can a Volus go shoulder to shoulder with me hardly? My ship's seeing off more foes than a Somalis. So we're going on safari to the far reaches, it'll be gnarly. Seeing stranger creations than Dali, and breaking more faces than Arnie. Mass Effect 2. Blown to pieces and reassemble. I don't believe this, it's bleeding mental. But then again, with these credentials, can they be blamed for believing me essential? I don't wanna be nervously lunching with Cerberus. I prefer to be punching a journalist, souping up all my guns for the skirmishes in which I'll puncture the firmament. Permanent, I'm gonna lyrical Mass Effect. My skill to kill a million billion massive get. Commander Shepard's formidable syllables hitting the vernacular is a miracle that commands mass respect. Incontestable, I'm a professional, but my new boss is less than respectable. So you better cover up your testicles, cause my next method's a bit of a spectacle. More fresh and raw than a vegetable, coming from the underground with the hunger of a thresher more. I leave the rack 9 with the black eye, slap pie jacks with the backhand, never act nice. Rap line sharper than a cacti, or the bite of a baron on a barren planet baptized in flame. Rise again, in fact I'm insane, providing pain. Back from the afterlife, packing an appetite to invade. This in a driving range, but I'll leave you with 18 holes inside of your brain, like a Swiss cheese. Bitch please, you'll disbelieve the manner in which I kick freeze. Bringing sci-fi to your hi-fi is the highlight of your lifetime with ease.